Hey there. Ready for a deep dive into positive discipline? We're going to unlock some of those parenting secrets and Jane Nelson's book. It's jam-packed with them.
Oh yeah, this book's a classic for a reason.
Yeah, NUW, positive discipline. It's like she's speaking our language, right?
Absolutely. Nelson's insights are timeless.
They really are. And, one of the first things that really struck me was how Nelson talks about how different parenting is today.
Oh yeah.
It's so different than it used to be even like a generation or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that proverb? It takes a village.
Right. Like a built-in support system.
That's it.
Grandparents, aunts, uncles, everyone just chipping in and
Yeah.
sharing their wisdom. It was like a master class in child rearing happening organically.
Exactly. But now, so many of us are doing this parenting thing without that safety net.
Right.
It's so easy to feel isolated pressure to figure it all out on our own. And we end up frantically Googling toddler tantrums at 2-0
And that's when all those untested theories can really backfire.
Totally.
The ones that you haven't had time to really process or see in action,
Yes.
they can lead to some interesting parenting moments.
We've all been there.
Wow.
We end up swinging between being too strict or too lenient, never
Yeah.
quite finding that balance.
Well, I love her 4 criteria.
Yes.
It's like she gives us a cheat sheet
Yes.
for evaluating any discipline approach.
I have to admit, when I first heard about these criteria, I thought, okay, this sounds a little textbooky.
Sure.
But then when I actually dug deeper, I had this aha moment.
Yeah.
She's not giving us a rigid formula.
Right.
She's giving us a framework
A framework.
for creating a more positive and respectful dynamic with our kids.
It's all about asking those key questions.
Yes.
Is what we're doing kind of Andy firm at the same time?
Yes.
Does it help our kids feel like they belong and that they matter?
Yes.
Is it effective long-term, not just a quick fix?
Yeah.
And then the last one, is it equipping them with those essential life skills for good character?
It's like she's saying, let's stop focusing on just obedience in the moment and start thinking about the bigger picture.
We're not just managing behavior, we're shaping human beings.
And that leads us to another one of Nelson's big ideas, understanding the why behind a child's behavior.
Yes.
This is where things get really interesting.
You know what's fascinating is that Nelsen doesn't just kind of pull these ideas out of thin air.
Right.
She's drawing on decades of research in child psychology,
Okay.
particularly the work of Alfred Adler and Rudolf Dreikurs.
Okay, give me the Cliff's Notes on these guys. Why should I care?
Well, Adler and Dreikurs were real pioneers in understanding what really motivates children.
Okay.
They were all about this idea of encouragement.
Okay.
And not just like praise,
Right.
but genuine encouragement that fuels a child's sense of belonging and significance.
So it's not just about saying good job. It's deeper than that.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where kids feel seen, heard, and valued for who they are.
Okay.
Dreikurs famously said, children need encouragement, like plants need water.
Wow.
I mean, how powerful is that analogy?
Yeah, that really hits home. Okay, so we're giving them this encouragement, but what happens when they still misbehave? Because let's face it, they will.
Right, and that's where Nelson's concept of mistaken goals comes in.
Okay.
She argues that even when kids are acting out, they're not actually trying to be bad.
Okay.
They're trying to achieve something positive.
Right.
That sense of belonging and significance we were just talking about.
Okay.
They just might be going about it in the wrong way.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example of a mistaken goal in action.
All right, so imagine this. You're trying to have a conversation with a friend, and your child keeps interrupting, demanding your attention.
Been there, done that.
Right.
It really works that way.
Exactly. But positive discipline asks us to kind of pause and consider, what's the mistaken goal driving this behavior? In this case, it could be that your child is feeling insecure. They're craving your attention. They've learned that interrupting gets a reaction, even if it's a negative one.
So they're not trying to be defiant, they're just desperate for connection. It's like they're speaking a different language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you understand the language, you can respond in a way that actually addresses the root cause.
Okay.
We'll get into specific strategies later, but just recognizing that mistaken goal is a huge step.
It's like that aha moment when you finally understand what your kid is trying to tell you. Okay, this is making so much sense. But doesn't Nelson also talk about birth order playing a role in all of this?
She does.
Because honestly, I've always been a bit skeptical about that whole birth order theory thing.
I hear you. It can sound a bit simplistic.
Right.
But Nelson's take on it is actually quite nuanced.
Okay.
She's not saying that birth order determines destiny.
Right.
but it does shape a child's early experiences and perceptions within the family.
Okay.
And those early dynamics can have a lasting impact.
Okay, so walk me through it. What are some of the classic birth order tendencies?
Well, let's start with the oldest child.
Okay.
They often thrive on structure and responsibility.
Yeah.
They're the trailblazers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ones who had their parents' undivided attention for at least a little while.
Ah, yes, the mini-me phase. I remember that with my oldest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that can also lead to them feeling pressure to be perfect,
Right.
to please their parents,
Right.
to be the responsible one,
Right.
sometimes even a bit bossy.
Oh, the irony. Then the second child comes along, and suddenly the oldest has to share the spotlight.
Right, and that's where those middle child dynamics come into play.
Right.
They're often the negotiators,
Yeah.
the peacemakers. They've learned to adapt and find their niche.
They're also often the ones who break all the rules,
Mhm.
right? Trying to carve out their own identity.
Absolutely. They might be the rebels, the comedians, the ones who are constantly pushing the boundaries.
Right.
And then, of course, you have the youngest, who can be quite charming and often benefit from not having to fight for every bit of attention.
They can get away with murder sometimes,
A little bit, yeah.
but they might also struggle with feeling less capable or responsible if they're always treated like the baby.
Right. And Nelsen stresses that family dynamics can either exacerbate or mitigate these birth order tendencies.
Okay.
If parents are constantly comparing or pitting their kids against each other.
Oh, you mean like, why can't you be more like your brother?
Exactly. It just reinforces those perceived differences.
Right.
But if the atmosphere is more collaborative and supportive, those differences can become strengths.
Yeah.
Siblings can learn to appreciate each other's unique qualities.
So understanding birth order isn't about putting kids in a box. It's about understanding their perspective.
Precisely. It's about recognizing how their early experiences might be influencing their behavior.
Okay.
And that leads us to the heart of positive discipline, shifting from punishment to solutions.
Okay, so we've cracked the code on why kids misbehave, but what do we actually do about it?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yes. That's where I think Nelsen's practical tools are pure genius.
Absolutely.
That's
She gives us those concrete strategies to move beyond just reacting
right.
and start proactively creating that positive dynamic.
Okay, so give me the highlights. What are some of the tools that really resonated with you?
Well, one of the core principles of positive discipline is this idea of kind and firm follow-through.
I'll admit, when I first heard that phrase, I was like, is that even possible?
Right.
How can you be both kind and firm? Doesn't that contradict itself?
It's easy to kind of fall into that trap of thinking that we have to choose.
Right.
We either become the authoritarian parent laying down the law,
Yeah.
doling out punishments,
Right.
or we swing to the other extreme and become the permissive parent, constantly giving in to avoid conflict.
And neither extreme really works, do they?
No, not at all.
No.
Nelsen argues that true kindness involves setting those clear boundaries and holding kids accountable for their actions.
It's not about being their best friend. It's about being their guide.
Exactly.
So how do we actually put this kind and firm approach into practice? Give me an example.
Okay, picture this. Your child insists on having a particular cereal for breakfast. You pour it, and then they decide they don't want it.
Oh, been there, done that. So what's the positive discipline approach?
So the controlling parent might force them to eat it.
Right.
The permissive parent might rush out and buy a different cereal.
Been there, done both. Okay.
The positive discipline approach is you acknowledge their disappointment.
Okay.
Oh, I see you're upset that you changed your mind.
Right.
But you also hold that boundary. Unfortunately, we can't re-crisp the cereal. You can have something else at the next meal.
It's about letting them experience those natural consequences of their choices without rescuing them
Yes.
or making them feel bad.
And speaking of consequences, Nelsen also talks about using logical consequences, which are a bit different from natural consequences.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the difference?
So a natural consequence is something that happens organically as a result of a child's actions. Like, if they don't wear a coat on a cold day and they get cold,
Right.
a logical consequence is something that you, the parent, set up in advance.
Okay.
And it's directly related to the behavior.
Okay, I'm getting it. Give me an example of a logical consequence.
Sure. Let's say your child keeps forgetting to bring their lunchbox home from school.
Okay.
A logical consequence might be that they have to help make their lunch the next day,
Mm.
even if it means getting up a little earlier.
It's not about punishment, right? It's about helping them learn that responsibility.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this ties into another one of Nelsen's tools, routine charts.
Oh my gosh, routine charts.
Yes.
I have to admit, I was a skeptic at first.
Sure.
I thought they were just going to add more stress to my already chaotic life.
Right.
But then we tried one for our son's morning routine, and it was a game changer.
Amazing. What kind of difference did you see?
Well, before the chart, mornings were like a battle royale.
Oh, yeah.
Getting him dressed, brushing his teeth out the door on time, it was exhausting. But with the chart, he could visually see each step of the routine. We even added like fun stickers for extra motivation. And you know what? He loved it. He felt a sense of ownership and accomplishment as he checked off each item.
That's the beauty of routine charts.
Yeah.
They provide that structure and predictability, which can be so reassuring for kids.
Yeah.
Especially younger ones.
Totally. It's like that old saying, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
The chart keeps everything front and center.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? What other gems does Nelsen offer?
Well, one that I always come back to is the importance of special time.
Oh, yes. This one is so simple, yet so powerful. Tell me more about it.
It's about setting aside that dedicated time, even just 15 minutes a day,
Okay.
to focus solely on your child.
Yeah.
No distractions, no phones, just your undivided attention.
It's like pressing the pause button on the chaos of everyday life.
Yes.
And just being fully present with them.
And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate.
Right.
You can read a book together, play a game, go for a walk, or just chat about their day.
Right.
The key is that it's their time.
Yes.
And they get to choose how they want to spend it with you.
You know, I'm convinced that special time is one of the best investments we can make as parents.
It really is.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
Because it strengthens that parent-child bond in such a profound way.
It fills their emotional cup, and it prevents so many potential behavior problems down the line.
I agree. And, you know, we've just scratched the surface of what Nelsen covers in the book.
Oh, we really have. She goes into so much depth.
She does.
Even more advanced techniques like goal disclosure, helping kids become aware of their own mistaken goals,
Yes.
family meetings, creating a regular space for open communication and problem solving.
Okay, I'm officially hooked.
I knew you would be.
Nelsen has given us so much to think about and apply. As we wrap up, what's one final takeaway you hope our listeners will carry with them from this deep dive?
That's a great question. You know, for me, the biggest takeaway is that positive discipline is not about perfection.
Right.
It's about progress. It's about embracing those mistakes as opportunities, moments.
Yes.
Both for ourselves and our children.
Right.
And continuously striving to create a more respectful and harmonious dynamic within our families.
So well said. It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
Well, this has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights on positive discipline.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners out there, keep practicing those positive discipline principles, and remember, every day is a new opportunity for growth and connection. Until next time, happy parenting.